Texans take the field. First new look at the offensive line and CJ Stroud. He rode the pine. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we.
It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. Let's hear from DeMeco Ryans, CJ Stroud, not on the field today. Let's hear what DeMeco Ryans had to say.
For all the guys you see here, guys, there'll be guys on different schedules, different routines. So you'll see some guys out, some guys won't be out there, some guys will be, some guys will be on different snap count, different pitch count. So there's nothing going on right now within our guys. Everybody's just on their own schedule.
When it came to being in the tush push and the pushing and the pulling of guys, what was your take on what shouldn't have been done? I think at the combine you didn't really take a chance.
Yeah, I think the Eagles have done a really nice job with the play, right? They're using a play that benefits them, and they have the quarterback who does a really good job of making that play successful. I think other people have tried that play, and it hasn't been so successful. So I think, first off, the play, it goes to Jalen Hurts, and a credit to him and the strength that he has, the way the O-line are executing the play is a credit to Philly for them putting their players in position to make plays, and that's what coaching is all about. So, I mean, they've done a really great job of doing that.
What did you see from Christian Kirk today, and how is he fitting in to what you're planning for the offense?
Well, Christian's been everything we could ask for. Talk about a guy he's dedicated to getting better. He's honed in on his craft. He's leading our young guys. He's a hard worker. He shows up every day with the right attitude, working hard, showing guys how it's done. And, that's what I've seen from him his entire career. So just pleased to now have him on our side, being able to help us and help our younger guys.
Coach, although it was voluntary, how much of that competitive nature did you see, a competitive spirit, did you see from those guys on the field?
Anytime you line up, it's time to compete, and that's what I felt from our guys. You felt that competitive energy. I think everybody who's here at practice today probably felt that energy, and that's what we're about. We're about competing. We're about challenging each other to make each other better, and that's what I love about the group of guys that we have. And to be able to do it in an environment where you can't go too far, but you got to toe that line just a little bit. Our guys doing a great job of that, of just being safe, first and foremost, protecting each other, but also getting good quality work in.
But there's been a lot of new pieces that you guys have brought into the offense. How have you kind of seen them mesh together?
And we're still in that process, that phase of getting guys to gel together and work through our system. This is our first time lining up against the actual defense, so it takes time. It takes a process to get there. We're not just going to line up and be where we want to be the first day. That's not how I want it. You want to see that continue.
This is give me a thumbs up in the chat if y'all can hear me on this. We're getting some stuff done, but here's more from DeMeco.
5 guys work well together. So one thing about the O-line is a lot of smart guys in that room, and they can move around. They can play multiple spots, and so that helps them. But it's just a matter of finding that 5 once we actually can get in training camp, put pads on. Nobody's making the team right now in shorts and helmets.
Where you were in the beginning to now, are there any players that stick out as kind of like a little bit more vocal, kind of leader, better communicators from when you first got here to now?
From my standpoint, I mean, guys have been the same. I mean, the guys when I first got in, Will, CJ, those guys have been the same. Nico has been the same. Jalen Petrie. That's the one thing I love about our guys. They're steady, right? Nobody has to rise up and do anything different. They're steady. Guys have done a good job of just gelling together as a group. We got a really good core of leaders, who are leading our guys. They know how to practice. I don't have to spend a ton of time of teaching guys how to practice anymore. Our leaders are showing these guys the way, so they make it easy on me.
All right, there we go. That's DeMeco Ryans. That's what he had to say. You heard him talking about CJ Stroud, and CJ Stroud was not throwing today. And my question is, how does that make you feel? Cody seems a little bit more worried about it. I'm not as worried about it. But it is interesting. It's the first day and he's not throwing. Maybe he's on some sort of routine. We'll see what happens Friday. But we've had a lot of, what do we call them? Do we call them examples? Do we call them warning signs? Do we call them just little coincidences? But we have had a lot of examples of CJ Stroud's shoulder needing to be maintained and being spoken of as something that's perhaps limiting him. So that is something that I think that is interesting with CJ Stroud. He was on the side working out, and he was getting some work, and that's one of the biggest observations. CJ Stroud's biggest reaction today from practice, quite frankly, the most action that we saw from him on the field was when Xavier Johnson caught a pass in 7-on-7, and CJ Stroud was very excited about it. That's kind of one of his guys. But outside of that, he's not throwing. And I'm not concerned, but I do think it's something to keep an eye on, and it's been kind of a theme with the shoulder. The talk heading into this thing, though, was the offensive line. And the the offensive line was something that we were looking at. Okay, how are they going to line up on the offensive line the first time? What is that going to look like? What will that group look like? And it was an interesting first group for the offensive line. The first group was Cam Robinson at left tackle, probably the spot that you felt the safest about. Laken Tomlinson at left guard. Feels like they kind of like what he brings to the table. And he does kind of feel like the leader of the offensive line. If you're just kind of looking at them stretching and drills and just the vocal and the way in which he handles himself, he does kind of feel like kind of the leader of that bunch. So Laken Tomlinson at left guard. Then you had Jake Andrews at center, which was the big surprise. Now, he does have history with Cole Popovich, and he does have history with Nick Caley. And let's be honest, Juice Scruggs has been a little bit of a disappointment. So, yeah, Jake Andrews with the first team offensive line. And there's a couple of reasons why this is interesting. First of all, you didn't expect him to be there. Second of all, he's healthy. So he's out there, he's moving around pretty well, and he's healthy. So there was that. And then you had Titus Guard at right guard. He's looking pretty good. All these offensive linemen look like they've been working out and they look like they're in good shape. And then Blake Fisher at right tackle, you had him. With the second offensive line, you had Ursery at left tackle, Juice Scruggs left guard, Patterson at center, Jalen Thomas at right guard, and Deculus at right tackle. Now, Jared Patterson was snapping the ball with CJ Stroud before practice, and CJ Stroud was getting some leg work in. He was doing some of that stuff, but he just wasn't throwing the ball. He's going through all the motions, doing everything except throwing the rock. But that was the offensive line. Really not a lot that you can take away from the offensive line outside of the fact that the way that they're lining guys up, no overwhelming surprises at tackle. The guards, I think you probably figured that out because they're not going to, if Titus is going to play guard, Laken Tomlinson's been playing left guard and starting at left guard for a long time. It'd be more difficult to ask him to go to the right side. So you have Titus at right, and then Jake Andrews at center. So that's the offensive line. That was the biggest takeaway there on the O-line. By the way, Cole Popovich, pretty intense coach. with the O-line. If this was just somewhat of a walkthrough, he did not get the memo because Cole Popovich, the new offensive line coach, was very much active and very much very vocal, very loud with these offensive linemen. So those were the offensive line groups. And of course, CJ Stroud didn't throw. Then we have the wide receiver group. And I thought the wide receiver group was interesting because it feels like it's set. Like, it doesn't feel like there's going to be much competition at wide receiver in camp. It just feels extremely set. Now, Justin Watson was not there. DeMeco Ryans has spoken very highly of him. I saw someone replied to my tweet and like called DeMeco Ryans out for saying good things about him. We don't know why Justin Watson wasn't there. We don't know why a lot of guys weren't there. But Justin Watson was not working out. So I wouldn't make a ton of that. And you just heard what DeMeco had to say about the tight end situation, or the CJ Stroud situation. We'll get to the tight end situation in a sec, because there's an interesting observation I had that made me wonder if it might give you hope for the Texan that you hate the most. I'll talk about that when we get into the tight ends. But the wide receivers I think they're set. Nico Collins, obviously. Christian Kirk moving around perfectly fine. Nolan Higgins, they look like NFL players. We'll see what happens once stuff gets physical. Watson, of course, and Xavier Hutchinson's on first-team special teams in many areas. So if they're going to keep 6, it feels like 6 is set. If they're going to keep 7, then I don't know where you look. John Mechie was out there. John Mechie's moving around like John Mechie has. I don't notice anything different. He did make a play in 7-on-7. But I just don't see, like, from a numbers game, there's a lot of mystery on the offensive line. At wide receiver, in a short time, you've kind of set in stone, for better or worse, what this receiving core is going to look like. So the two biggest areas of needs kind of set in stone. And the offensive line, now we got to look at Andrews. Another thing about the offensive line that I think needs to be kind of just accepted, and I said this earlier today on SNL, Juice Scruggs is a backup. Like, let's just accept it. You have eyes. I have eyes. We've watched Juice Scruggs for 2 years. There might be times where Juice Scruggs is going to start, and those times aren't very fun to watch, quite frankly. He doesn't have the scapegoat of a first-round pick that's been scrutinized since he put on a Texans uniform in Kenyon Green, an offensive tackle in Laramie Tunsil, who some Texans fans seems to love to hate, and Titus Howard's a guard now. He's not a tackle. So I think it just needs to be accepted that Juice Scruggs, and I'm talking to myself too, like, I kind of just saw the light. The guy's a backup. That's what he is. He's a backup. And it's no coincidence that he's with the offensive line, second team. He's a guard. And the position that they traded up in hope that he would be able to play, he wasn't even one of the top 2 options. That tells you all you need to know about the state of Juice Scruggs. Maybe something crazy happens. Maybe there's some sort of mystery, but they got 2 centers in front of him, and he's a backup left guard. And he's a backup to a guy who has been in the league forever. His last 2 teams laugh at him in Tomlinson, although I think obviously there's something there if he's able to start as many games as he has. And then he has Titus Howard at playing guard on the other side. The thing is just it's right in front of us. But because he's a second-round pick and because everything's been bad, there seems to be like a little bit of like hope for Juice Scruggs. And it's just like, in which Laken Tomlinson has been able to start so much despite being bad. And if you just kind of career in his starts, it's one of the most fascinating game logs in the world. It's insane. So he has started, and I'll pull this up. Laken Tomlinson has started in the last few games, and I think the site kind of chopped up a little bit. But he has started 17, 17, 17, 17, 16, 16, 16, 15 games since 2017. I mean, for someone who is that bad, look how many starts he has. 17 every game, 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 not every game. That's from 18 to 24. It's one of the most fascinating game logs in recent NFL history. It's actually pretty crazy what's going on with Laken Tomlinson and his starting and lack of support that he has from other squads. On the super chat, Austin Jack, HDAV Traveler.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Evening, Landry and friends. Evening to you. Gamer G Texans fan. Shout out to you, my friend. Appreciate you for joining. But the offensive line, very, very interesting. I don't know how you start every game in that long of a stretch if you're Laken Tomlinson. It's absolutely wild. So that's the offensive line. That's the CJ Stroud takeaways here in the locker room. And that site got a little bit choppy, a little bit interesting at the start of things. So that's the wide receiver, the offensive line, and CJ Stroud. So we're going to cover all ground here as we did have boots on the ground. The next observation that I found kind of interesting, and this was tight ends. So there was no Brevin Jordan and there was no Dalton Schultz. And that was just as far as on-field activity, because what happens when guys aren't practicing, when they actually keep practice outdoors, is the guys who aren't working out, you get a grasp of them because they're usually on the side field. We always say so-and-so was on the side field. And usually when they're on the side field, it means that they could be close to returning. That's usually like the sign of things. A lot of times they're erring on caution when it comes to training camp and OTAs and everything like that. They're trying to ramp guys up. And a lot of times there's more guys on the side field than there would typically be during the season. Because it was raining, we went in the bubble. And the bubble, the outside has three big-ass fields where the guys practice. So there's a side field, there's a kicking field, and then there's a field of whatever the hell they're doing. And usually the guys that are working out, they're on the kicking field, and that's considered a side field. So as soon as practice ended, Dalton Schultz and Brevin Jordan, they were actually working out. So they perhaps would have been on the side field. And I started to wonder, okay, we know Brevin Jordan tore his ACL last year and that he's working out. I wonder if Dalton Schultz was injured last year, if there was some sort of injury that was nagging Dalton Schultz, because there was time where Dalton Schultz was missing time. There was time where he was on the side field. I wonder if Dalton Schultz, maybe there was something bothering him last year and something that was going on with him. Now, he was running. It didn't seem like it was anything serious. He was running sprints with Brevin Jordan, but I wonder if Dalton Schultz, maybe there was a little bit something there. And look, it's obvious to anyone who watched last year that Dalton Schultz didn't perform well. He wasn't good. And quite frankly, even at his best, it's a pretty rich contract that the Texans gave him, but it makes you wonder, was there maybe a little bit of something with Dalton Schultz? That's probably something that will be asked whenever Dalton Schultz speaks to the media, if he ever does. Trey of Texas says he broke his effort ligament. In fairness, even when he's balling, he never really looks like He never really looks like he's never going to win a body language type of thing. But maybe Dalton Schultz was injured last year. He's damn sure not ready to go this year like Brevin Jordan. So there was that. He broke his effort ligament. Is a nice one. Cebu says if you're hurt, don't play. It doesn't always work like that, especially when you're under contract. Probably a little bit more willing. They were kind of thin at the position. They'd lost Brevin Jordan. So, yeah, I would agree with you, especially with the way that he blocked and put CJ in harm. But maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something to that. So that's the tight end observations. Running backs, there was no Joe Mixon. There was no Dameon Pierce. Dare Ogunbowale was RB1. Quite frankly, Woody Marks, no one really did anything that really stuck out when it came to the running back. So there was nothing really to keep an eye on. Which running backs are best at pass pro? I would say Dare Ogunbowale. They've mentioned that a time or 4,000. So was Shaq Mason hurt? No, Shaq Mason was terrible. But he was also hurt too, right? And we saw him get right back out there. So that's the offensive side of the rock. Other non-participants, if we're looking at who wasn't out there, Joe Mixon, not out there. We mentioned Dameon Pierce. Christian Harris was there, but he was on the side. He was wearing a hoodie. No Watson, we mentioned that. Schultz and Jordan were there. They worked out after. No Danielle Hunter, no Sheldon Rankins, and no CJ Gardner-Johnson. So those were the guys that were out. Special teams, pretty interesting. You had Tremont Smith is already one of Frank Ross's guys. You can tell just the way he communicates and the way they run special teams. You have that. Hutchinson's first team punt return. So that's probably going to help him when it comes to making the squad. The deep snapper, the first bad snap that I've seen in my entire time covering the Texans happened. Whoever the hell number 40 is, don't know what the hell his deal is, but he had a bad snap, and Tommy Townsend let him know that he was not a fan of that. And then you were basically missing all your defensive line. There was no Heinisch. We didn't really we didn't see Heinisch. You didn't see Rankins. It was basically just Tim Settle and a bunch of guys. So that's what we got there. What else did I write down about the special teams? Nothing really. No field goal. So we didn't see Fairbairn kicking. Fairbairn was actually catching Tommy Townsend punts. It's hard for kickers to kick in the bubble. They have a field to themselves in the previously mentioned format, but in the bubble, they don't really do that. So there was that. Defense, Will Anderson, massive human being. He actually worked out with Myles Garrett in the offseason. He was asked about that by Chancellor Johnson. Here was what Will Anderson had to say about working out with Myles Garrett. And I asked him who lifted more weight. Here was Will Anderson.
Just like, I'm all like self-improvement, how much better can I get? It's really just me versus me. So like, that's kind of the attitude that, going into now I'm taking, like, it's me versus me. Like, you don't have to worry about anything anybody else say, bro. Like, how are you enjoying your process?
When you do work out with someone on another team like that, like, y'all are trying to obviously help each other, but
yeah.
At the same time, are you guarded and like not trying to tell?
Oh no, it's very competitive, and we talked a lot of smack. Hey, he's hilarious. He's a funny guy, man. But it got very competitive. A lot of words were shared, and it just brings out the best in both of us, man. Because Myles is somebody I look up to. Obviously, man, I respect his game. He respects my game, and I can't wait to see him ball out this year.
Same amount of weight, kind of competitiveness.
Oh, I'm not a liar. You know what I'm saying? He got the weight stuff. You know what I'm saying? But the agility and all that, I was up there with him. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I was going to see how honest he was. Will Anderson is looking massive. As are a lot of the guys that we expected to look massive. All the offensive linemen looking pretty good. They're in shape. They look like they've been working out. Bullock looks like I don't think he has the body type that's going to put on a ton of weight. Some guys just aren't built to put on a ton of weight. I don't think that's Bullock. I think he's a good football player. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's not for a lack of effort. You still get stronger, probably put on some mass. But if anyone was expecting Kalen Bullock to come out and just look like just be jacked, yeah, that did not happen. No one really looked out of shape. Everyone looked like they were in shape. So that was something interesting. Azeez Al-Shire does look like he's a little bit more massive. And I asked Al-Shire, because they got these new guys on the defensive side of the rock. He's obviously one of the leaders. I asked Azeez, how do you incorporate what you've already built with the new guys and that type of stuff? How do you blend in the leadership?
I'm trying to build on what you did last year. What's it like being that guy and then having guys like Chauncey and Sheldon added to the mix? How does that dynamic work? Where you want to build, but you also want to take out the experience they have?
Yeah, I think that's the thing about like life in general, not just the league, but in life, even when I talk, I do a lot of things like talking to kids and stuff like that. When I talk to them, it's like you can learn from anybody. I could talk to a janitor and learn something from him the same way I could talk to the CEO. So you put that in a football setting. I've learned things from guys who maybe never played it down, but they've been in the league for 5 years, or somebody who is a rookie coming in who might just know something that I don't know. So I think it's just about being open-minded and realizing that nobody has it all figured out. So when you talk about a guy like Chauncey who, played, we got drafted, or we came in the same year into the league, 2019 class. And, as the years go on, those people in your class, it starts to fizzle out. And me and him had that conversation too. It's just like, remember the combine, everybody's there. It's this big like fraternity feeling. And then, you look up and it's year 7 and there's not too many guys left. So I think you can learn from everybody because everybody's experience in the league is so different. But if you're just willing to like be a sponge and absorb that, then you can get a lot better.
I think it'd be interesting to see how that blends, especially on defense. Because I think worst case scenario, I think this is a top 10 defense. I mean, I think that highly of the defense. I know we spend a lot of time bitching about the offense, and I don't think anyone's like throwing a party about the layout of the offensive line with what we just said. And, the wide receivers, you feel okay about them, but there's question marks there. And the tight ends, there's really question marks all along the offense in some way, shape, or form in every area. But on the defense, like the worst case scenario, it's going to be a really, really good defense. The best case scenario, I think it can end up being an elite defense. And it will be interesting to see, what does Rankins bring to the D-line? How does that mix? CJ Gardner-Johnson, we've talked a lot about him. How does that mix? What's that going to look like in the secondary? The linebackers, you already have Azeez. What is Christian Harris going to look like? Is To'o going to still be the same type of player that he was? So the defensive mix is something to keep an eye on. But even like the worst case scenario, it's still going to be a really, really good defense. So if it gels at an elite level, and let's say that Rankins gives you a season like you got from him even a couple years ago, and Gardner Johnson makes the secondary even better, and Stingley and Lassiter continue their improvement, then you're talking about an elite defense. You're talking about defense that no matter what happens on offense, you're going to have a chance. And just seeing it in front of you, even with some of the guys that are missing, it's very easy to tell that this is going to be a good defense. The offense, we still have no idea. They ran 7-on-7. We're trying to pick up nuggets. Okay, what are they doing? What's Nick Caley? It's really kind of hard to even judge because when Keon Slovis and Davis Mills are running the offense, are they doing the same stuff? Are they checking down a little bit more? Are they trying to incorporate stuff? It did seem like they were throwing the ball on the flat a little bit, but there's really no idea what's going to go on with Nick Caley's offense. The offensive line is interesting. I do think this Andrews thing is real. I think Andrews, I don't know if he's going to be the week 1 starter at center, but he has an advantage over all these other guys. In that he knows these coaches, he knows what they want, he knows what they're about, they know what he's about, and they brought him in. So Drew Scruggs, Jared Patterson. I think Patterson's probably safe. And I think Drew Scruggs is probably a reserve guard, a versatile backup that's mediocre at 3 positions. But I think the biggest takeaway here is the Andrews thing is real. He is alive. He does exist. Trent Brown, we did not see him. So I don't know what that is and what that even looks like. I mean, is he going to be a backup tackle ahead of Ursery? Is he going to replace Deculus? Is he in shape? I mean, that we don't know, but the Andrews thing, he does exist. So keep an eye on that and keep an eye on the rest of the stuff on the O-line, which we'll get a better grasp of in camp, especially once they actually have to block. But I think the biggest, like, if you ask me, what are the most relevant things that happened today? Honorable mention, the CJ Stroud not throwing. Honorable mention. Andrews at center. That matters. That's a thing. Titus Howard going to the right side. Playing right guard. I think that matters. That kind of tells you that maybe you can kind of chalk in the left side of the line, Cam Robinson and Laken Tomlinson. And then we'll see what happens with Fisher. Ursery probably starts out as your swing tackle, but that's what it's going to look like there. And Jared Patterson, as I mentioned, was snapping the ball to the CJ Stroud. No one was really, someone's asking who was toting the rock. No one was really toting the rock. There wasn't much going on. We didn't see Mixon. This boot that people speak of, that Joe Mixon is, by people, I mean Aaron Wilson, bro. We still haven't seen Joe Mixon. So hopefully he's got a camp with CJ Stroud next week or the week after. I think it's after the next round of activities. We'll see if he's in a boot. We'll see how he's moving around. I've heard that he's playing a lot of video games and talking a lot of crap and schooling some fools on Madden. But we'll see how he's moving around and what goes on with him. So that's the biggest takeaways from the OTAs. Meanwhile, Stefon Diggs. Remember when we were talking about if the Texans should bring back Stefon Diggs? I was like, nah. I don't think the Texans should bring back Stefon Diggs. My reasoning, I got a little bit of pushback on it, was there's just all these little things that happen to Stefon Diggs off the field that at this age, it just seems a little bit weird, especially for a guy that's not the player that he once was. Like if we're talking Stefon Diggs 5 years ago, yeah, you can tolerate little things here and there, but some of the stories that were coming out last year, like just outlandish stories with some of the stuff that was going on, some of the stuff that he was being accused of and all that. And now, today in New England, Mike Vrabel's answering questions about Stefon Diggs handing girls something. We all know what it is, but something unidentified. It'll be interesting to hear his explanation. And saying that they got to call him daddy to get it while he's on a boat, missing OTAs with his new team, with his hardo head coach. Could you imagine? I almost wouldn't hate this from a content perspective, but I was kind of exhausted by the Diggs thing. I think it was an interesting dynamic here. I think he was a good teammate. I think he worked hard. We said this last year that I think they were kind of bothered and annoyed by the fact that he didn't work out here and was rarely here after he got hurt. We heard a lot of whispers of it. Just look at the way that DeMeco talks about guys that are here. So you can kind of read between the lines. Again, this isn't hindsight. This is stuff that we talked about on the channel. But could you imagine if this happened? I would like to hope that there would be some accountability, like from people in my field doing their job and asking him the questions. And I would assume maybe, but the way that he was kind of coddled last year in that field, I don't know. I do know this, though. He is in for a rude awakening in Boston. And this is not the right foot to get off to. I know he's very sensitive to the media stuff. You go back to what happened in Buffalo. But Stefon Diggs is going to be grilled, and they are going to wait. It is going to be an absolute herd of media in Boston. And now that you've seen this, it's going to be a problem. And they're all going to be pro Vrabel too. So they will deliver the message indirectly. He is in a massive, he is in for a massive rude awakening in Boston. It's gonna be wild. I don't know whether he gets suspended. I don't know what happens. I gotta imagine they don't feel too good about it, and it's pretty. We know what it is. It's not the high grade. Come on, it's definitely not that. But I think you can do some research and figure it out. It's not the
high grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
But yeah, just kind of a wild, thing by Diggs. But he was at least responsible with the lady. He told her, "Hey, don't take the whole thing. Half it. Got to half it. You call me daddy. Here's your drugs, but you got to half it. You got to half it." Yeah, Sosa knows what it is. Sosa knows what it is. Eric says, in hindsight, I think Diggs stunted the growth of the second year of the Texans. Tank, CJ, and Bobby. I don't know that he stunted the growth. I wouldn't say all that. But I mean, it was obviously a failed experiment. The injury factored in. But I just thought there was a shelf life. I thought it was kind of a swing for the fence, and that was the shelf life. And I thought they wore it out. So I think I've been proven right on that. I almost wish I could go in like an alternate reality and watch DeMeco Ryans and Nick Caserio have to answer for this. But I guess it's fine that they don't. But I also can't wait to hear what he has to say for it. What can you say there? What is Stefon Diggs going to say there? He's probably just going to try to put it to rest, but it's not going to fly in Boston. There's nobody that wants to hang out with you. There's nobody that wants to play Madden with you. There's nobody that wants to like, hey, bro, let's be buddies on the side. There's none of that. Like it is like he is going to get hounded in Boston. And they are going to report. They are going to write. If he struggles, they are going to call him out for this. Anytime he drops a pass, it's going to be a thing. Vrabel's going to get tired of it unless he just goes out there and balls out. It is going to be a lot. I don't know how DeMeco's never had to handle a situation like that. They've always talked about having the right kind of guy. And look, he's partnering on a boat. It is what it is. It's just the optics of it when they gave you the contract that they gave you. They basically let you have your contract that you voided back. That's essentially what they did. You're on a year-to-year thing. They gave you something that I don't think any other team was going to give you. They have a rookie quarterback who they value a lot. They're trying to protect him. They're trying to get him back. And you're on a boat doing that while injured and unable to go. Mike Vrabel not happy. DeMeco probably wouldn't be happy, but hey, he doesn't have to deal with it. I almost wish I could like snap my fingers and just see how he would, because I think it would be hilarious. So CJ Stroud, the big story again, he throws. How does that make you feel? Are you worried? Like Stutes? Nothing to see here. This is kind of one of those things where I think the defense of it, sometimes, like when you're defending something, it almost makes it's almost counterproductive and it makes it look worse. But I saw someone in the SNL chat. Shout out to everyone on SNL. Subscribe on all podcast platforms, as well as right here. But someone was saying, well, it's only May 28th. So it's no big deal. And I was thinking, like, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Like, does that help the cause or does that hurt the cause that already in May 28th, there's a load management thing. And the first time that they're at OTAs, CJ's not throwing. Who knows? Not overly concerned about it, but the shoulder does seem to linger around when it comes to CJ Stroud. And in the words of James Franco, in one of the greatest movies of all time, I want y'all to name the movie in the chat. Lingers. Can't stand linger. Surely you know. Someone in this chat knows what movie that's from. If you don't, you probably should. You should probably go watch it, or you should probably know. Yeah, he was definitely locked in. Nobody's saying he wasn't locked in. He was very animated during the Johnson thing. He was right there with the team. He wasn't like in a wheelchair. Just wasn't throwing the ball. But yeah, he was there. Yeah, Pineapple Express, y'all know. Y'all already know. It's one of the best. But yeah, that's a little May football. That's a little May gathering. That's a little May workout. Is there anything else that I missed? Is there anything that y'all want to know? And a lot of the stuff that y'all ask, you don't see. There's just a little bit of a workout. So we've covered every part of the offensive line. We covered every part of the defense. Is there anything else that we need to know? By the way, I'm hopping on a plane tomorrow morning. I'm going to Oklahoma City. Daughter's going to be a flower girl for the first time. We're going to see what that looks like. And got a wedding tomorrow, so gonna probably drop some videos schedule, but got some stuff going down. But yeah, nothing crazy. Starting safeties. There was no Gardner Johnson, there was no Jimmy Ward. So you had Bullock back there, and then it was 7-on-7, so I wasn't even paying attention to the safeties. There was never like a full defense out there, so I don't know if they were putting more nickels or whatever. It was kind of like a different formation, but the starting safeties wouldn't really matter because most of them were out. We already talked about the tight ends. Brevin Jordan and Dalton Schultz worked out after. Kind of wonder what's wrong with Dalton. Maybe something with his ankle or his foot. But yeah, there's that. Where does the locker room intro song come from? Figgy Fig. Edward made it. Guy I used to work with. So yeah, it'll be cool. Flower girl. I'll be honest with you. I'm worried about her choking, man. I want her to go out there and put on a good performance. I'm kind of worried. This is kind of like the little league dad. Can't be ruining a wedding, man. She's got to go up there and try to figure this out. I don't think she grasped the concept yet. She's not even 2, but she's got to step it up a little bit. So yeah, I guess it'll be cool. I just hope she doesn't choke. She's got to get those flowers out or something, or at least do something. You got to either choke or you got to do something crazy. You can't like get scared and cry and stuff. There's got to be like an endearing. The task is not like you have to sprinkle the flowers perfectly when you're under 2, but you gotta either do something cute or you gotta execute the game plan. We can't just have a runoff and a shy thing. We gotta have something going. So no pressure. Hopefully she handles the pressure well. She's got to get it right. Can't be ruining the wedding. No, Sam. He's a square. I'd be more worried about her being distracted by something. Yeah, that's definitely going to happen. That's definitely on the betting board. So, yeah, that's what we got. OTA action. And a little bit of father life tomorrow. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. OTAs continue. Nick Caley is going to speak on Friday.
Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do.